Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
I'm Marty Levinson, and you're watching Northtown News Magazine.
In closing, I want to say, hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine. Thank you very much. For the identity of the real Marty Levinson, please stay tuned to the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet home Chicago. 2 is 4.
Hey there, I am really Marty Levinson. Don't let anybody fool you. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Dial us up on the World Wide Web at www.ntnm.org, where about 125,000 of you have watched shows so far. Thank you very much. We're real big on community policing here, caps24.org. To get all the meetings within the 24th district, check out the site. 2412, which I chair, is between Devon and Pratt, Kedzie Ridge. We meet on the fourth Wednesdays. Through May, we're at Boone School. And then June, July, and August, we're over at Warren Park. Sonny Hirsch, 2413, is Peterson to Devon, Kedzie Ridge. They meet on the third Tuesdays at 7 p.m., and it alternates between Greenbrier Park and Emerson Park. For 2411, check caps24.org. They alternate between St. Margaret Mary's and the Bernard Horowitz JCC. The message boards might be very nice places to meet people or gossip with your neighbors. Very unreliable information about community policing and neighborhood crime and all that. So your best bet is to go to your CAPS meeting and meet the officers live. We've got a couple of new beat officers in 2412. And you know what? It's a good idea to get to know the police who actually patrol your street. It is a pleasure to have the commissioner of, I don't even know which district, the number, of the 10th district, who has one election after initial appointment, and that is Commissioner Bridget Gainer. How are you?
How are you? Thank you for having me, Avi.
My pleasure, thank you. And tell us, how have been going about finding things?
I love it. I mean, now I've been on the board about 10 months. So I was appointed in April. I was elected in the primary in February, and it's been great. We've gotten a couple of accomplishments under our belt. We passed the budget. We reduced the sales tax by half, and I've gotten involved in some of the important things about the county. More engaged at the hospital, working a lot with the jail on diversion issues, especially for mothers who are in prison, trying to make connections with Chicago Public Schools for those children, and we're able to get our hands on a lot of really interesting things.
Yeah, how does a mother handle things when she's in jail and with kids and stuff?
Well, one of the things that, different from the state jail, so there's a trial and you know what's happening. If someone gets arrested, they can disappear and go to bond court, and if they can't post bond, they can disappear for 2 months and no one, their child may not really understand what's happening.
Wow.
And so what we're trying to do is look at, 85% of the women at county jail are nonviolent offenders. They're in for drug use or prostitution or retail theft even. And looking at, the cost to have that person out of the home, because 60% of these women are living with their children at the time of arrest. And so we're trying to increase the ability of them to communicate with their children while if they have to stay in county jail, waiting for trial, and then trying to get few of them in there in the first place. Sheriff Dart's done a great job on trying to push the idea of electronic monitoring bracelets.
Right, the ankle bracelets.
Absolutely, I'm a big believer in that. When you have a nonviolent offender that really has ties to a family, I think you have to look at those options. And so we're working with the sheriff and the chief judge to try and move some of these things forward.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tom Dart.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. He was at the City Club yesterday, so talking about just these issues.
No, he's really done a good job. And we could get into a whole thing. The fact that this country has the largest jail population or percentage of the population in jail. And for some of the, I won't get into specifics. I'm not looking to get you into trouble.
No.
I've got my own stances on these things, but some of the people that people go to things go to people jail for, it blows my mind. It really does.
Well, they estimate that Cook County Jail. Remember, no one's been convicted of anything. They've been arrested,
Yeah.
and in many cases, they can't afford bond or bail, and most of that is drug use. And so, not that that's not important. But there's an estimate that 40% of the people in county jail actually have serious mental health issues. And so, they require treatment in order to stop the cycle of they get arrested, they come to jail, they get released, they do something again, they come back in. And, it costs about $117 a day to keep someone in county jail. It costs $45 a day to put them out on EM, and then you can get them services. So I think that's the direction that we need to move as a county and as a country. So hopefully, with some of the people that are at the table now, we can make that happen.
Well, good luck. That'd be
Thank
nice.
you. Yeah, it would be good. It would be good, especially for the, especially for the women, and especially for the women who are parents of children.
Yeah. Have you taken any real pet issues under your, are there particular issues you're really looking to deal with right now? Or?
There are. So, the county budget comes out in April.
Yeah.
We reduced the sales tax increase by half. So it was increased by a penny. We cut it back by 5%, which means 50%, which means we're going to need to cut about $150 million out of next year's budget.
Yeah.
So we have to get serious and think, where does the money come from? So much of the county budget, $3.2 billion, 85% is personnel. Many of those things are mandated. When you look at the jail, you have a certain number of inmates, you have to have a certain number of jail guards. At the hospital, you have a certain number of patients, you have to have nursing care and doctors and all the things that attend that. And a lot of the county's services are not really fungible. It's hard to reduce them without cutting access. So one of the things we have to look at is pension reform. We hear it at the city. The mayor's had a pension commission for the last 2 years. The state, we've heard all about the pension crisis that they're in, massively underfunded. The county actually is not that badly underfunded, but we're going into debt $300 million a year. So we're contributing $300 million less than the liabilities and benefits we're promising to our employees. And so I think that has got to be something that can be addressed, because where else do you make up $300 million a year in the hole? So
Not so easy.
Not so easy. And so if we don't get in front of this now, we're going to be in a really bad situation. I mean, one of the dilemmas about the state is that the problem has gotten so huge, it's almost hard to even figure out where you begin solving it. The county needs to jump on this right away. And so that's something I'll be working on.
No, that's definitely important. And in the state right now, I mean, the whole thing could crumble. Nobody says that you can't have an institution. I mean, there's governments or cities in California
That have gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
Right. And that's nothing. I mean, look, it's like a business going bankrupt. It's 100 times more disruptive. And no one predicts the state's going to go bankrupt imminently. But when you look at, right now, the Civic Federation did a study, and the pension deficit equals about $5,000 for every man, woman, and child in the state. Okay, just to make up that difference. And when you look at really who's going to bear the most of that burden, it's going to be our children, and it's going to be young people who are the workers of the future. And if you looked at that number for people under 30, it's enormous. And that's too much of a burden to pass on to our children, who are going to be, who knows when the economy will recover, and you really can't create a scenario where you have to raise taxes so high in order to cover some of the spending.
It's true. And one of the problems, too, that people don't realize is even during the Depression, when people were in debt, we weren't in debt to foreign countries the way we are now.
Yeah.
And that means a lot of this money flies out of... I've been talking, as if I would say it's funny, I've had a lot of problems with my editing program for the computer. I talk to India almost every day.
I know. Well, and the other thing that was different the last time the country was in a serious economic trouble is household debt wasn't so high, because you didn't have the ability to borrow the way people have the ability to borrow now. And so one of the dangers is the country's massively in debt, and then each individual household also is, whether it's mortgage debt or college debt or credit cards. And so you think, where are the resources to dig ourselves out of this hole?
And that's a real problem. It's funny, I remember when my dad got a credit card in the mail when they first were starting. And he called the whole family together, and he showed us, I guess it was a Visa and a MasterCard, whatever it was. He took the credit cards, and he said, they said, you have good credit, and here's your card, and blah, blah, blah. And he took the cards, took the scissors, and cut them both in half and told us all to forget it.
Yeah. Well, there was just something passed in Congress that limited the ability of college students to sign up for a credit card. Because I remember when I was in college, you couldn't really get a credit card. It was really difficult. If you got one at all, it had about a $500 limit. Now, a college student of 19 years old can sign up for a credit card. There's often really high limits or no limit, and then ultimately their parents become responsible. So, we need to look at, everyone would love great easy credit, but it isn't feasible.
No, you got to pay the bill. I know myself. I finally broke down. I didn't get a credit card till 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the reason I did it is because if I really wanted to fly anywhere.
That's true.
Because
I was car or,
yeah. So I was asking my uncle or asking my brother, can you? But it became a pain. I only wanted a $300 credit limit. I never asked for a higher limit. Okay, all of a sudden my limit's closer to $5,000.
Right.
And I never asked for it.
Right. Well, that's the dilemma. I mean, you have to wonder, it's like the question, it's like The Godfather, the question of who benefits, and so hopefully, people are looking to turn the corner, and we have to do it as a country, as a state, and as individuals.
Yeah, it'd be nice, even though the federal government did finally put a little bit of clamps on credit card companies.
Right.
They still actually need to go a lot further, in my opinion, and it's if you actually look at the way they're basically setting it up to try to trap you into a credit
cycle.
Thing. Yeah, it's pretty absurd. Tell us about other issues you're into.
So we were talking about focused on the pension. We're also going to be focused on the budget. So as I mentioned, the preliminary budget comes out in April, and one of our goals is to look at, if the budget gets passed in November, how do we take this 900-page book that you can't really get? You can get online, but it's a PDF, and you can't really dig into it. And we're devising, myself and my staff, along with some of our community partners, kind of a budget school. So a Cook County budget school where we're going to take the county budget. It's basically 4 big sections: public health, which is the hospital and the clinics; public safety, which is the jail, the courts, and sheriff's office; the forest preserves, and then all of the tax and administrative issues. So treasurer's office, clerk's office, assessor, board of review, recorder of deeds. And look at those 4 buckets, and then try and talk about some of the big costs. We're going to be allocating down, and I'll try not to get too in the weeds of jargon, but right now when you look at the budget for, say, the Highway Department or the Department of Environment, it will list the salaries and any contracts, but it won't talk about the cost of health care and the cost of pension, which is easily 30% of those personnel costs. And as I mentioned before, the county budget's 85% people. We're a service-providing organization. Doctors, judges, jail guards, all of those things. So you really need to look at what does it really cost to run the jail? What does it really cost to run a clinic? And you have to put all those things together in a simple way. So if you look at the full cost of the employees, the full cost of the contracts, and then other things that may be specific, if we have to cut $150 million out of this budget, and as I mentioned before, a lot of the stuff is mandated, so you may only have a percentage of the budget that you can really maneuver. You need to get the information out to people in a way that makes sense, that they can decide on it, and then they can call and engage with their elected officials to say, hey, this is important to me, this is what I really value, and maybe these things I can live without, because we're going to have to live without something. So that's our focus, and understanding the budget, like anything, it's understanding the priorities of a government. That's the things they fund, that's the things they think are important, and I think the voters now are much more focused on the county than they have been in years past because of the sales tax debate, because of all of the engagement with the presidential election. So, I think it's a good time to launch that type of citizen effort.
Yeah, actually, that actually was, in my mind, the sexiest race, was the president's race.
Yeah.
I mean, that had the most interest for me.
It did. It was, you really had 4 very different choices. Extremely
different.
And I thought it was interesting that, Toni Preckwinkle really got a mandate. I mean, she got, in a 4-person race, to get almost 50% of the votes. Impressive.
Yeah, that really surprised me. Also, with the marriage of things like the Tribune and Mayor Daley with Preckwinkle, I mean, that's strange bedfellows.
Well, I think that from what I have observed about Alderman Preckwinkle, she's very pragmatic, very policy-oriented. Yeah. She knows her politics, and she's smart. And I think the mayor actually shares those attributes. And so, I think she'll slip right in. I've met with her once, and she has a lot of interest in the things that also interest me, and so I think, she'll hit the ground running.
No, she's a very intelligent person, no question. She does a good hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Maybe not as good as you.
Good. I'm glad that's the case. I'm going to bring that up to her when I see her.
Yeah, and by the way, I actually one of my pride and joys was that I had all 4 candidates doing hi, I'm Marty Levinson before some of the shows.
You should put that in a best of Avi Meyer. I don't have to go out there.
I should. I really should.
Right,
that's
right.
for sure. But no, listen. I do know this, that even though I did not support her, I think she means very well.
Yeah.
And I think she wants to do a good job, and I got to wish her all the luck in the world.
Oh, we all wish her luck in the world. I mean, it's like whoever gets elected to any office, it's too important not to wish them well. And so I hope that there'll be some new members of the county board, and she'll be new, and I think everyone will kind of jump in. Because like I said, this process of reducing the county budget, we'll really have to have people working together.
Yeah, how many new board members are there going to be?
There will be 2 new board members, definitely, potentially more from the general election option. So John Fritchie is replacing Forrest Claypool.
Yeah.
And Chuy Jesus, whose nickname is Chuy Garcia, is replacing Mario Moreno. Mm-hmm. So he's representing kind of the southwest side and Cicero. And then John Fritchie is going to be representing Forest Old District, which is Ravenswood, West Lakeview, that kind of northwest side, but not too far northwest.
Yeah.
And then in the Republican side, and for the general election, there's contested primaries in a couple of races. Greg Goslin has a woman named Jennifer Jenkins running against him. Liz Gorman has someone named Pat Marr. And Schneider's not opposed. Silvestri has Ralph Caparelli, which is kind of close to this part of the woods, part of the 39th Ward. And then Tony Parayka has, I don't know the guy's name, he's the mayor of McCook.
Yeah.
So those 5, except for Tim Schneider, all 5 Republicans are in contested races. So you may see more new people at the board. Hard to say now.
Yeah, it's very possible. It's interesting because despite all the attention I pay to politics, I probably know less commissioners than any other.
You know all that you need to know, Robbie.
Well, I know 2 good ones, that's for sure.
That's right. That's all you need.
Good line. Okay. Well, first of all, before I forget, I want to thank Katie Hallman.
Yes.
Who's been really terrific to deal with. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to ask you, and I hope I remember later, you should send me a link because I'll actually read those budgets.
Okay, good. No, I would love it. I mean, and I'd be happy to we're going to send out something that's actually a couple pages, readable, and I'd be happy to come back and talk about it.
I actually started in June. I was the editor of the Mayfair Junior College paper, which is now Truman, and I actually used to read the entire city college budget. Doesn't mean I understood it, but I used to read the whole thing, and at least I got to see where some of the bodies were buried. Well,
it's like learning a foreign language. You get the ebb and flow of where things are. I mean, there's some tricky things about the county budget. There's all these special purpose funds that collect revenue, and then sometimes they say, well, I've reduced my budget, but I've just grown my special purpose funds budget because I collect fees. But if you're collecting fees from the people that pay taxes, it's really 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So wading through some of that stuff is going to be part of our challenge. But
it is a challenge. Wear deep boots.
I will. I have a lot of finance in my background, and so I feel pretty comfortable there.
You've got a great education.
I do have a great education, but I also, more importantly, worked at the city budget office because budgets are, it's a certain lingo, but they're all pretty similar once you get the hang of them. And now that I have some time at the county under my belt, I've toured all the facilities, I've seen what's gone on, I've been out and about. It really does help to when you're looking at the budget because now stuff actually makes sense.
Well, it sounds good.
Yeah, it'll be great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. You want to give us your contact information?
Yes. So I'm www.bridgetgainer.com. I'm on Facebook, too. I know people like to use that.
Oh, I'm your Facebook friend.
That's right. And then I'm at, for an email, I'm just Bridget@bridgetgainer.com. And the number at the office is 312-603-4210.
Very good. Bridget Gainer, the Commissioner of the 10th District. Well, actually, you won the primary, but you don't have a Republican opponent, do you?
No, I don't. The district is fairly heavily Democratic. No one has registered yet as a Republican. I could still get an independent challenger, and I guess if there was any year to get an independent challenger, this will be it. I'll be curious if we may very well end up with some independents in some races, I think. So
it's a possibility, that's for sure. You never know.
No, it's a contentious year, so
Yeah. Anyway, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Okay.
And pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.